Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to me to Hangout Cafe. Well, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have you here with us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, thank God. Thankful
Great.
first week of school is done. So, you know,
Okay. I know
just a
you're in
hundred
Dubai. I know you're in Dubai. So how many hours ahead? Is it ahead or behind you? You're
ahead.
ahead.
So currently we are 3 hours ahead. And
Okay.
then when you guys turn the clocks backwards for
Yes.
winter time, we'll be
Yes.
4 hours ahead.
Okay. Wow.
hmm
Great. So I said you're in Dubai. What exactly are you doing in Dubai? Not living with
So
you.
yes, I'm a history teacher, secondary school history teacher. This
Okay.
is my third academic year here in Dubai, and
Right.
it's my 11th year teaching
Wow.
overall.
Okay.
So I've been teaching for a little while. I moved out here then in 2021. And yes, apart from being a teacher, I am an author. I've got a devotional and a book out. Books, What They
Wow.
Don't Tell About Being Single. That was like 5 years ago. My devotional, Relationshiping with God. I do have a podcast. But in this season, like since I've been in Dubai,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just blogging my journey in this season with God. I feel like that's just where I'm kind of at. Like the all the extracurricular isn't happening
Okay.
as much, but I feel like I'm in just in a different type of ministry season.
Ministry. Okay. So this is a different season for you.
Yes,
That's fantastic.
yes.
Why did you decide to go into teaching?
Um, I've always wanted to work with young people.
Okay.
And so I remember, I think my third year of uni, I did some placements. And I was
Right.
like, I want to get into teaching, I want to get into education. I remember my history school teacher in, secondary school, like I really loved her.
Right.
And I also, my younger sister is 9 years younger than me. And I
Wow.
remember she was having a bit of a hard time when she was in primary school. And
Yeah.
in primary school, her class teacher just seemed to be really, in my opinion, I feel like she was picking on her. But I just remember the impact that she had on Tyrone when she was a little child. And I just thought, like, such an impact that you can have on children. So
Mm.
I think from there, I've always loved history. I studied at university, no idea what I wanted to do with it.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, the line just kind of fell for me in pleasant places. And then my training year was really hard. So many times I wanted to quit, like even months before I finished, I was like, I'm done. It was really hard training to be a teacher. But
Wow.
when I get into the classroom,
Yeah.
like it's almost like second nature to me. Like I've been off like 6 weeks. I'm like, do I remember what I need to do? But literally come back in and my brain is just it's doing what it needs to do.
You know,
So
it's
yeah.
interesting you said this thing about the impact because I don't think a lot of teachers understand or realize the impact that it can have on a child. Because
Yeah.
you hear a lot of people say it was because my teacher believed in me. That's why I decided to go down this career path, or it made a difference. So teachers,
Mm.
we really do commend you. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Okay, so I forgot to mention this again at the beginning. Today we're going to be talking about things I know better in my 30s. And our guest barrister is Tumi Olaoshun. Is that right?
hmm
I hope I
Yes.
pronounced the last name.
You said pronounce it better than me.
So, Tumi, tell us some of the things you wish you know better, or you know better now in your 30s. And actually, before we go on, do you mind my asking how old you are?
No, I'm 35. I'm
35.
35. 10:35 in June. So I'm literally bang in the middle of the decade, which is wild because I remember when I turned 30 and now I'm 35. But we thank God for life. Very grateful for life. So
Thank
yes.
you for life. Okay. So, do you have any particular thing you want to touch on first, or shall I ask you questions? What would
No,
you?
you can ask me questions. I'm sure then I can spin into other things from there.
Okay, let's start with because you ended up talking about your faith and when you're talking about your career. So, how has your faith evolved now that you're in your 30s, and what role does it play in your life?
My faith is consistently evolving, but
Okay.
it is like a pillar on which I stand. Um, it's interesting because I was always like when I was at university and then in like my mid early 20s, I was like quite lukewarm in a way. Like I knew passionately about God, but that living it out,
Yeah.
it being like my heart and out, wasn't really always happening.
Okay.
Um, and I think it was in like my latter 20s where I just like my eyes actually no, I know what it was. I was heartbroken. I got myself into some serious pepper, and I just the Lord, like when I was rock bottom, I feel like I was able to see just how he sees certain things in terms of like sin and just
Yeah.
of how I was living my life and just this kind of picking and choosing what I wanted to follow, picking and choosing. And sometimes it wasn't always just picking and choosing.
Right.
Sometimes it was just me being a bit naive, like just not thinking about the implications and of my decisions.
Okay.
Not making, the Bible says, like, does someone start building a tower before counting the cost? And I would just make decisions. I would just start seeing guys and not really think about what would this mean if this was to go any further. I just just lived, and so I think that was like a really big thing for me. And I then really saw the ramifications of it,
Right.
where I just was heartbroken over a guy that I shouldn't have been heartbroken over because, to be honest, like the signs, as always, are there, and I just kind of just going with it. So I think when I got into my 30s and after like I as writing the book was almost like the fruit out of that like fire and out of that pruning process. I just realized that this is really like this is what I'm about.
Okay.
Especially in the area of relationships, I think that's a place where I probably compromised the most, and
Okay.
each and every time it was never worth it.
Mm.
And I think by that point, God had just yeah, just strengthen me. Just like if let's go all the way with me.
Yeah.
And so coming out to Dubai through now, well, through 2 years ago, but into my third year,
Yes.
Dubai for me was almost a little bit like university again, in the
Okay.
sense that you can reinvent yourself, you can be whoever you want to be, you're meeting new people, you can literally just you can be like, who's gonna know? This Dubai is very small, so people will know. But do you know what I mean? Like I could meet different people, and I
Yes.
think being over here and that separation was again
Yes.
another opportunity for me to see what was in myself. And
Right.
even though obviously there's been growth and pruning and oh, this is really ugly. And then I was just confessing myself to one of my friends this week about the ugliness in my heart. Like I can see that wow, of a truth, like this faith thing wasn't just because, I was in Jesus' house and I
Yeah.
lived 15 minutes from church and lots of my friends were in church and church was just what we did. It was
Yes.
actually like this Jesus thing is actually like it's like my life. It's why I think the way that I think. It's why I do what I do. It's why I respond, why I'm challenged with certain things.
Right.
And so I think being out here has really, even to me, shown me like, wow, like that the Lord has really got you in this. Like he's got you. I don't say that I've got it, like he's got
But
me
you do.
in
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just interesting when you were talking about being alone in Dubai. I thought about the story of Jacob who was left alone to wrestle with God.
Mm,
Okay, that's probably what you're going through.
yes, because there has been lots of wrestling for sure.
Wrestling. Wow. Okay, that's good. Now, because you spoke about you talked about the thing that drew you closer to God after you had that broken relationship. I think it was this week I saw something that talked about we say red flags, like you would have seen the red flag, but that is not even the red flag. That there's a yellow flag that you see before the red flag. So let's talk about some of the things. And this is for a lady out there who is going through, or hopefully will not have to go through after listening.
Mm.
What are some of the things that a young lady should look out for?
It's funny. There's also a meme that said the count. It says like the counselor's asking the woman or whoever, like,
Yeah.
but you saw the red flags, right? And the response is, yeah, but I thought it was a carnival. Like, I thought it was a party. I thought it was just like, it wasn't that bad. And I laughed. I laughed out loud. It's funny because I said that before that happened. I think I was like 27, 28.
Yeah.
And then more recently, in like not a same situation, but I was in a very serious committed relationship and I called it off. And I was like, no, this cannot continue with
Right.
marriage. Like I called that off. And so in terms of the red flags, and I think I'll speak about the most recent one because
Yes.
that's where I can really relate to in terms of my maturity as well. I think red from one of the things I've learned is just how discerning I am as a person,
Okay.
that the Holy Spirit is very much active. And
Right.
I took it for granted because I just think you're overthinking things or it's not that deep. And I didn't realize like how clearly the Holy Spirit can speak. You can see things. And one of the things that I've appreciated as I've got older is that I am more perceptive and discerning than I think.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's to give the Holy Spirit room to move with that. So that was the first thing. The second thing when it comes to red flags is often it can be like the little things that kind of rub you up the wrong way, but
Mhm.
we kind of disregard. And for me, I found that I am quite conflict avoidant. I think it might
So you
be,
rather avoid conflicts than
yes,
okay.
especially if it's something that's made me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
If it's like me bringing up an issue, like, oh, I don't really like it when you said this, or I find it really uncomfortable and stuff. Like, my sisters will be like, no, she doesn't. But even sometimes, if I think it looks like I'm being too sensitive or you're
Yeah.
being too dramatic,
Yeah.
I try to shy away from it.
Okay.
I'll shy away from having those type of conversations where if I'm telling you something, I don't want the person just to feel bad and apologize. I just want to
Right.
say that, I'm upset by what you said. So I overthink myself into a state and I don't say anything. And often when it came with red flags, I found myself, I was doing that a lot. And
Okay.
so some of the things I would consider if being red flags, like if faith is something for you, like are you guys both aligned?
Mm.
And I think we overcomplicate it in the sense like I have my lifestyle, you have your lifestyle.
Yeah.
If our lifestyles are not representing the things that we say they are representing,
Yes.
then what does that mean? I understand very much now that you can't change like, we're not responsible for how people respond to us. We're not responsible for what people do. We're only
Right.
responsible for how we respond and how we act. And
Yes.
so I have no desire to change anyone. So if from what I can see that this is a consistent thing with you, is actually my responsibility to decide if this is something I want to go forward with, or actually is this something that I can't. If I choose to go forward, seeing how this person acts and I don't like it and I choose to go there, that's actually my problem
Absolutely.
because they have been consistent with their
Yeah.
behavior.
Wow. Do you know what?
And
We're constantly trying to change people.
and we
Sometimes.
don't do it, sometimes it's subtle. So
Yes.
it's like, person A doesn't eat egg, so you leave it. And then
Okay.
it's like, oh, I've made egg fried rice. Would you like some? It's so nice. I'm like, no, thanks. I don't eat egg. Oh, okay, sorry, I'll take it out. And then it's like, oh, I'm having poached egg with some salmon and bread. Would you like some? Oh, no, thanks. I don't eat egg. And then it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, oh, I've just fried some. Da, da, da. It's just got, and it's like, I don't like egg. And then it might get to a point where, okay, I'll take it. And then they pick out the egg, and then you get upset. But you
Yeah.
should have the egg with it because it's really nice. And really, obviously, we want to help. Like, eggs got protein, it's so good. Like, you don't know what you're
Yeah.
missing out on, but they've told you. So it's
They
either then that they take what you're giving them and quietly hide it because they don't want to upset you,
yeah.
or now there's an issue here because you're literally forcing something on them, even though you know that it's good. This
Yeah.
is a good, and like, if they are open and willing, they might go, okay, let me try it. Oh, it's not so bad. Okay, I'll try it again. Then
Mm.
fine. But it's not of the hope that, I'm just going to keep on presenting this situation, this thing to them and hope that they
Yeah.
will change or hope that they will accept. So I'm going to keep on saying, I'm going to church, I'm going to church. Oh, I've got prayer meeting, I've got this, I've got that. And if they're not interested, then there's nothing you can do for that to happen. The best thing is for you is to pray. Maybe the Lord has brought you into their life, maybe not in a romantic capacity,
Mm.
maybe just as a signpost, or
Yeah.
maybe a signpost to point them to a greater community that can help them.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not necessarily to do with us. I think sometimes us women may have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think dealing with that, like you literally can't change people, like compatibility for a long time, it's kind of, I think I kind of, okay, like as long as they're Christian, they're saved, they're born again, then that's fine. But you have Christians and we're not compatible. You know, the things that you like to do in your spare time are completely different from the things I like to do in my spare time.
Yeah.
Like I could, and not to say that we have to have the same hobbies, but it's like, oh no, I no, like that's not for me. How
Mm.
you speak is, I don't like those things. The goals that you have for your life, you know,
It
if someone
comes.
says that they want to stay in one country,
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, you know? Or if they said that, oh, I'm happy to be far, far away from my family. Like, I'm not really much of a family person. It's just me and my spouse. It's like, okay, home is a really big deal for me. Like,
Mm.
as far away as I am, like, I literally speak to my family like, it's weird if I do not speak to a member of my family in a
Yeah.
day. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird. So it's also understanding of like those things like compatibility as well. Like, do I like you as a person?
Mm.
That if we take away the butterflies, the sexual attraction,
I love that to me. Do I like you as a person?
as a person, do I like you?
Do we really think about that though? Do we sit down
I
to think
didn't
about,
consider those things. I thought if
wow,
I fancied someone, then obviously it meant
yeah.
that I liked them. I thought they were synonymous, but they're not.
Wow.
Because you could just fancy them because, you know, they treat you nice, they look good, they smell nice, you know, they buy you things, and like, yeah, I can fancy them. But do I like you? Like how you respond to things? Do I agree? Do I respect you? I might not like you in a moment because we're
Yeah.
falling out, but do I still respect you?
Hmm.
If we weren't dating, could we just be friends? You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
like if you weren't trying to date me, if I wasn't trying to date you, could we actually just like, yeah, we're cool. We get along. And since a lot of my friends, I've a group of friends who had been married, and it's like approaching nearly 10 years now, praise God. But you know, seeing their relationships evolve over time and actually seeing that, wow, that these guys are actually friends. Like they banter, they joke, they can be like direct with them. They can say, I don't like this, this is what I need. Like you're
Mhm.
talking to them as a friend. And
Yes.
I remember looking at them and I was thinking, oh wow, I don't think I could say that to that person. Like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
that I think would be, I don't know, I don't know if I could be comfortable just saying how I feel. And then I realized that if you know, you say you want to spend the rest of your life with someone and you can't be completely open and honest with how you feel with this person, then what's really going on here?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as I've got older, that compatibility, that friendship thing, like, do I like you? Do I respect you? I didn't pay much of attention to it when I was younger, but
Yeah.
I can see that compatibility, friendship, companionship, like
Very
someone
important.
we actually get along with, like I can depend on you, I can trust you, I can
Mhm.
be safe with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are really key things. And if some of these things are not, obviously, time tells with these things as well. But
Yeah.
if you don't feel safe for someone, if there's a lot of pretense, have to show up in a particular type of way so that I'm accepted, then I don't know how sturdy these connections can really be. I would say that these are issues that I have learned from, and going forward is thinking, okay, like these things are important to me. I
Yeah.
maybe didn't consider them so much or pay much attention to them, but now I see how important they are. um
Yes, I guess what also helps, or will help to me, is when you know what your values are. Because
mm-hmm.
a lot of us don't know what our values are. We don't even have a clue. What are your values? What are the things what are your core values, not just core values in a relation?
Yeah,
You have to know them before you enter a relationship. So for
true.
you, I know that your faith is very, very important to you. It's a core value.
Mm-hmm.
But other people don't know. So it's like, no,
Yeah.
it's okay. We'll just make do. We'll find our way. So
And
I
for
think,
some people, it works. Like, I feel like, you know, you hear these stories, and I think that's like another thing. Like, if you're always looking for the exception to the rule instead of the rule as like your caveat, that's also maybe problematic. Like, oh no, but you know, not everyone did it this way. Like, there are a few that, you know, and you're looking for like outside of the usual thing.
yeah,
And even like knowing your values, like knowing yourself, as I've got older, I mean,
Oh,
I've done
yes.
therapy, I have accountability people, I have mentors, and it's really caused me to know myself more.
Yeah.
Um, being living by myself now, like I spend a lot of time by myself,
Yeah.
and the Holy Spirit. Just this week, I was just like, "Ew, that's ugly." Like, oh, that's that made you like. I was like, Lord, like that. I know that's not your fruit. Like, I know that's not of you, and I
Yeah.
don't like that. I feel this way. I actually don't like it. That I was jealous about that, and that's really ugly. Help me deal with that. And so even I'm spending more as I spend more time with myself, the Lord is bringing things up in me,
Yeah.
and some things I can pray about, talk about. Other things it might be actually maybe this is what I need. Someone needs to go to therapy for. But the more you know yourself as well, the more you can be more self-aware about who you are. Then it really helps.
Now, let's talk about this because I think a lot of us, maybe it's not spending enough time with ourselves. Because
Mm,
there's people that are always on the go, they never can sit down for 10 minutes just to access. So, for example, sometimes I sit down and maybe I'm feeling in a funny, I have a funny feeling. I'm thinking, okay, so what brought that about? Why are you feeling this way?
mm,
Process it. But I
yeah,
think a lot of us don't do that.
that's good.
So
Yeah.
how did you get to that place where, okay, I know you talked about therapy. Was it therapy that helped you to get to that place where you're able to assess your feelings and, oh, hmm,
Um, I think therapy helped me maybe handle my feelings in a more positive way because I'm quite self-critical. To be
okay.
honest, I think it's my job.
Oh,
Training how to teach, we had like throughout the training year, you have a lesson and then you have to reflect on how your lesson could have gone better, what went well, what didn't go well, what aspects, whatever. So my first year of teaching, that was the same thing. You'd get observed, you talk about it. You know,
okay.
when you're like, I teach, like I have like several classes of the same age group. So
Yeah.
maybe we have like 3 or 8 classes or whatever. The
Yeah.
first lesson was like, okay, I really like that. I love how that worked out. That was really good. Next time I'm going to have to switch that up because I didn't like that response. So because of my profession,
Yeah.
naturally it causes me to reflect. Like on my CV, it says I'm a reflective practitioner, and I am a reflective practitioner.
Okay.
And I've always been like, I write. I've always had a diary when I was younger.
Okay.
I journal. So I think those things are quite natural to me.
Right.
But as time went on, I would date things, I journal things. I'm in a process of like documenting like words and promises and instructions I think God is saying, so I can
Okay.
go back and reflect and take time to sit, like go back, remember like what did God say about this? Where have you read this before? Like where were you this time last year? What were
Mm.
you thinking this time last year? What was going on this time? Always, and especially because the 12 months with this time last year, the 3 months at the end of 2022 was so turbulent. Even like first being the first, 2nd of September, I'm thinking, wow, like this time last year, like my dad was in an accident. Oh my gosh. And now look at him now. So I'm like is I think is a part of my nature to reflect. I have several journals, have a WhatsApp conversation with myself. I
Okay.
make a note of things that you were saying, like something doesn't sit right. I'll write it in my WhatsApp thingy. I'll go back to it and think, what is that? Like, I don't like that. So I
Okay.
think it's been a part of who I am. The process that I'm currently learning to now is just to take more time to
Right.
go back
Okay.
and reflect. Because I write lots of things, but there's no point in writing everything if you're not reading it. You know, if you
True.
don't, because you'll forget. There's so much information we consume, we'll forget. So
Yeah.
now I'm in a process of okay, like sit back, like where were you last month? Like what was the mood? What were you writing down? What things were you looking at? What were you talking about last month? And because I do have people that I'm accountable to, people that
Yeah.
I'm really big on like authenticity and having community. So I put myself in positions where trusted people, not anyone, but trusted people can critique,
Mm.
can chime in, people that I respect, people that I honor.
Yeah.
And so I think that also helps me where I can't see like the wood from the trees. It's just to say that, okay, maybe they can give me insight. I've put myself in a position where I allow that. I know it's scary because obviously you don't know what people will say, but that's where I feel like community is really important,
Yeah.
where you trust people and you know that if someone is saying something which may be a hard pill to swallow, it's because they love you, not just because they're criticizing you or they, they just want to pull you down.
Yeah.
And I've been really fortunate to have people in my life that can do that for me. And so that's then helped me to self-regulate, check myself, reflect, that
Okay.
sort of thing.
Another thing, I don't know if you had this in your previous relationships, because I always say to young ladies that whoever you're dating, even the lady herself, you should always
Mm.
have a mentor or at least someone you're accountable to in
Yeah,
your life. It is
yeah.
so important. I mean, a person who doesn't have anyone that they're accountable to is a disaster, because that means
Mm-hmm.
there's no one that can speak into their life, no one that
Yeah,
you, even if you have challenges in the marriage or
yeah,
relationship,
yeah.
no one they can go to. So it's so
Very
important
important.
that we have those kind of people in our lives. Okay, great, great, great. Oh, and one other thing, I must say this to me. I was actually having a conversation with someone yesterday. Yes, and I was talking about one of my mentees who called off her marriage 2 weeks before. She
Wow.
was supposed to get married actually 2 weeks before, and this lady I was with was saying that that's quite commendable, because especially in a lot of Nigerian families, it's a big,
Mm.
like, what? Why would you do that? So I said that, well, fortunately, her parents were like, if you decided that it's better for you to call it off now
Yeah.
than to actually go into the marriage and then 2 weeks later. So I really must commend you, that you were able to stand strong and do that. And I'm sure your family must have been behind you. So well done. Because some people, if I interviewed someone on Hangout Cafe who said that at her engagement, her sister asked her if she wanted to call off the marriage. And she was like,
Mm.
no, the parents have spent so much, they spent a lot of money, that no, she was fine. So she went ahead with it. But less than a year later, the marriage broke up. So,
Wow.
and I think parents too. I mean, I'm hopefully parents. Some parents will listen to this. It's so important to support your children. If they
Yeah.
say they don't want to go ahead with things like this, it's okay.
Yeah.
Support them. And if, as a young person, it could be a man or woman, if you feel that, this thing, I just don't, my gut feeling,
Mm-hmm.
go through with it, then end it. It's better to
Yeah.
end it now
No, for
than
sure.
later. Yeah. So
Like you
well,
have to speak up. Like you have to speak up. For me, I think even picking up things like I've learned, like as I said before, like being how discerning I was.
yeah.
My only thinking is that I wish I should have listened to myself earlier, trusted myself the way that I trusted myself by the time that I had to make that decision. I wish I trusted myself beforehand
Yeah.
because it was like the same thread. I just couldn't see it until it was much later. Um, but yeah, definitely like speaking up and because like you have to like we are only responsible for the actions we take, and I think it's so painful. It's hard to take responsibility for something when something's been done to you, when you
Yeah.
feel like your choice was taken away. Like you can't like those things, those situations are so hard, and
Yeah.
so I can't imagine then like being forced something as big as marriage, like you felt like obliged and then you did it.
Yeah.
And then who do you hold account? Like I did this because of you, but your parents have gone back to their house, your siblings, everyone else is living their life. Like,
Yeah.
and now you're stuck with this.
Yeah.
And so I think again, having has spent more time with myself,
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't like sit with this.
Mhm.
Like, no, it's not worth it.
Yeah. And you're right. It's funny. What you said about it might some things might be okay for other people. I remember this. I introduced this many, many years ago. I introduced someone, a friend of mine, to another friend of mine, a guy. And I remember she said, there's no way I can get married to this guy, because I mean it was things like he had an accent. He had
Okay.
a Nigerian accent that was quite thick. And she was like, there's no way I can live with this, blah, blah, blah. I mean, to me, even I wasn't in the marriage, I thought, well, it's such a minor thing. It's a good thing.
Mm.
But for her, it was like, I can't. I'm going to
Mhm.
constantly think, oh my God, this is an embarrassment. But a few years later, this guy met this wonderfully beautiful young lady who didn't care about the accent. And she was
Mhm.
okay, So some things you can live with, some things other
Yeah.
people might not be able to
Yeah.
live with. So,
No, absolutely.
but I also loved what you said about they're consistent to their own behavior. I think
Mm.
you don't see that. You know, don't blame them that they're behaving in a particular way. That's they're
Mm-hmm.
consistent to that. It's up to
Mm-hmm.
you to decide if you want to live with
That's
that.
it. That's
Wow.
it.
I really love that. I really love the way you put it. They're consistent. Okay, so good, good, good. So let's talk about family and the importance of family, because you've talked a lot about your family.
Yeah.
You talk to your family every day. Um, so is there, has your family dynamics changed as you've entered your 30s in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I think it has. I'm the first of three, and so I'm firstborn, like firstborn daughter, holding everything on her shoulders, everything on her head. And I think as I've got older, one of the things that I've had to learn is actually allowing my sisters to be their own people. They're great women, they're great women, but it's also I thought it was almost, I guess, like a mini mum. Like, if you see your child doing something, there comes a point where you can advise them, but they're going to make their own decisions.
Right.
And I made it like it was something on my mind that I didn't want to be. So I didn't want to be a sister who they felt that they could only come to me with things when they knew I was pleased with them. So obviously, like, if I'm really going to church and doing all of this like Christian stuff, then Tumi's going to be really happy. And if I don't do those things, then Tumi's not. When I first came into the faith, my sister Wing would tell you that she found me insufferable. Like, she'd be apparently, she would go out on a Saturday night and I'd be like, we're going to church tomorrow, so better be careful what time you come home. And she'd just be like, you're going to church tomorrow. I didn't say I was going to church tomorrow. Her friends would come over and I literally like be glaring at them like, can't believe they're wearing those things. I was so cringe. I was the absolute worst. And it did hit me because I think it was actually Pastor Badge. And I think he said to like my mum and Wing when they came to church one time, like, oh, Tumi's so lovely. Like, she's always the first one here. She's so kind. La, 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 la. And I felt like my mum and sister were like, this is not this terror that's at home telling everybody what to do, running the house up and down. If she doesn't get her way, she's slamming doors. And I was really convicted because I was like, I literally can't be one way inside and another way
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
And also, am I really, even though obviously I wanted my sisters to really be vibrant and on fire, but am I actually, like, am I, not that we have to sell Jesus, but is
Mhm.
how I'm behaving making Jesus attractive?
Yes. Yeah.
Probably not. So as I've got older, I've had to really just understand what it means, like, to love them and accept them. Like,
Mm.
understand that and they're obviously getting older, like they're women in their own right. I have to like
Okay.
respect their decisions. And like,
Absolutely.
even though it's a case of, I expect you to tell me these things, why would you, like, for me, it's not a case of why would you do that? It's, I just want you to tell me these things. Obviously, I want more for you if they have done something I don't agree with, but it's not my place to, like, I'm not them. Like, I always say it to like my mum about my younger sister. I'm like, look, that's your daughter. To be honest, I'm not her mum. So to be honest, like, I need to also respect myself. Like, she
Yeah.
can come say to me at any point, like, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm not really asking for your permission. And
Mm.
so I've had to learn how to relax these firstborn shoulders and let them do what they want to do and show them love regardless, like, not
Yeah.
love them with, like, giving them like conditions on how I love them and
Mm.
stuff. So that's been like a real learning curve for me, to give them the space as women that,
Okay.
that they have their own, like, they can do what they answer to God, not to me. Like, I'm not their mother, I'm not the God in their life.
Yeah.
And so respecting their decisions
Yeah.
and lovingly trying to do so. It's hard sometimes, 'cause I'm like, just do it my way, because this is obviously the better way. Duh. But if they choose not to, then that is absolutely,
That's fine.
it's their life,
They lie. And sometimes people have to make their own mistakes to learn.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
actually, they may actually know, like I've said, we talk about discernment. They may feel very strongly that this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how to like live your life. And so with my siblings, that's been something that I've learning and walking in, because I do obviously really love them. I cherish them. And I think just as I've got older as well, like my parents, as a teenager, never saw eye to eye with my parents. Oh,
You know, I was just going to ask that. Are you more tolerant of your parents now than when you were younger?
honestly, I was such like every typical thing you could think of an adolescent. Like I cringe at myself, like so annoying and stuff. And so now like I really cherish my parents. And I think it's just like seeing them get older as well. Like, it's like oh
Yeah.
wow, like when you're younger, you're like you're teenager in your 20s, just like they know everything. And like, okay, yes, mom, yes, dad, because I know everything. And then you see them and they're like, well, what do you think? And you're like, oh, that's being like
Oh,
my
yeah.
opinion. Okay. And then it's like, I mean, to be honest, I've always been quite dominating in the house. I can't really lie. But them actually just like coming to me or, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to do, or, you know, I've opened your letters and this is the decision we're going to make. And like, you know, I'm going to come with you to your appointment. Okay, I'll drive. That type of thing. So I think it's really, especially, and I think now that I'm away from home,
Yeah.
I do get to come back. I just really just want to like love on them as much as I can, because yeah, like life is not promised and it's actually a real blessing. And so, kind of like the gripes I had growing up, growing pains, family dynamics, like I'm so grateful to God that He has been able to really keep us knitted because I literally I kind of take it for granted, just think that everyone just gets along with each other. Everyone feels like home is a safe space for them. And
Okay.
unfortunately, that's not the case. So I'm learning not to take it for granted. Like, thank God for my parents. You know, thank God for the relationship that we have, the siblings that we have. Not perfect. It's not the Brady Bunch.
No family.
Not the Brady Bunch. But the love is there. And like, you know, we really, yeah, it's really been like a real blessing from God. A
Okay.
real blessing from God that as we've got older, we're actually getting closer.
That's great. That's absolutely great. Okay. Good, good. Let's change now to your career.
Mm.
Interesting. I was just thinking, hmm, do you know, I don't know if it's true. I hear people say that millennials don't stay too long in a career, in a job, that they're always moving around. Now, I don't know if
But
that's
like
true.
it's the other way around. Like Gen Zs don't stay.
Oh, is it Gen
Millennials are
Z?
loyal. Millennials are loyal to the core. It's Gen Z. It's like 6 months, gotta go.
Really?
Not working for me, gotta go. Or like, you know, like I was speaking to when my sister was graduating, she was telling me like the type of company she wants to work for. I'm
Okay.
like, you're such a joker. You don't have any experience. Whatever company gives you a job is a job that you will accept. What do you mean? I don't know if these align with my values. Like, get a job, girl, and then decide if it aligns with your values afterwards. It made me laugh so much. I was laughing. I was like, what a joker.
Okay, so I got you right. Gen Z is not millennials. Millennials are loyal. Okay.
It's too
Okay.
loyal.
Too loyal, really. But what made you decide to go to Dubai?
I went to Dubai nearly 10 years ago on holiday, and we
Okay.
met this, my friend and I, we met this teacher who's from Ireland. I don't even know how we met. He was just saying that he bought his house in Ireland, he's paid it off, he's teaching out here, like life here is so good. And then I was like, I'm gonna come to Dubai. That was like 2014. But to be honest, before, I think when I was about 18, I had decided that I do not want to spend the whole of my life in London. Like, been London born and raised, and I had like other friends who had, because of their parents, had traveled, had lived in different parts, and I was just like, that's so cool. Like, I've always just had this like wonder, lust in me. When I was
Okay.
teaching, I said I'm going to do my teacher's training, my 1 year qualification year, and then I'm out. And then 8 years later, I was still in London. I was like, and then my younger sister had said she had graduated, she'd worked in a job for a year.
Okay.
And she's like, if I don't get this job that I'm applying for, then I'm going to go to France and I'm going to do this. I can work up on my French. I can be fluent in French again. And I was like, why don't you just get a job in London, see if they have an office in France, and then when you're settled, you can transfer. And she was like, no, because I'll just end up staying in London for like 5 years and never move. And then I was just like, I was like, my chest. She's literally, and she didn't mean it. She wasn't like indirecting me.
Yeah,
But I was like, that's me.
that's
I
you.
just got comfortable. I like the kids at my school. So, oh no, I'll leave after this year. Oh no, 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 I need to see this year through. Oh
Yeah.
no, I know everything. Like, oh no, I just don't want to leave. Like, oh, so scary. And yeah, my little call her my baby sister. She's not my baby sister, but she's my baby sister. Literally, 2020 pandemic in September, packed her bags. She had to go to France by herself because we couldn't go because the time that she'd gone, it was still like 2 weeks quarantining.
Okay.
So obviously, as a teacher, I couldn't go somewhere in September, then be off work for 2 weeks when I've
Yeah.
had like 6 weeks holiday.
Yeah.
So no one could go with her because of like work and stuff.
Yeah.
And off she went. And I
Wow.
said, my God, if Tarayo can just up and go, then what am I waiting for? And yeah, the Lord really just aligned certain things. He started making things a bit uncomfortable, really started testing me in certain areas. And then I was like, yeah, I can't keep waiting for this moment. Like,
Mm.
come on, your baby sister's literally taken herself off.
Yeah.
Like, go. And so, yeah, it's been a learning curve, but probably one of like the best experiences I've had to date. Like, I'm so grateful I've been able to do it.
You know, this thing, well, I'm not sure if it's a quote or something that I say that your comfort zone, it's not your place of growth.
Mm,
Getting out of London and going to Dubai, I'm sure you can see the growth that has happened
yeah, yeah.
since. Yeah. But a lot
Like,
of, I mean, I'm like that too. Everyone loves their comfort zone.
mm-hmm,
It's not
mm-hmm.
it's not how you're going to grow. If you're going to grow, you have to come out of a comfort zone, no matter
Yeah,
how painful it may be. But you have to.
honestly. No, you have to. I remember when I left, I was so excited. Like, everyone was like sad at the airport. I was like, bye, can't wait. And then when I got into the apartment, it was like empty. And I was like, oh, I
Oh
should myself. And then that's when I started crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
gosh.
But and everyone's had to grow because of it. Like my siblings, my parents, like it has transformed all of us and
Yeah,
stuff. And yeah, God has been so faithful, but it's literally been one of the best decisions I've made to date.
fantastic, fantastic. I love that. Okay, so as you go into your, or how do you see your career goals and ambitions changing as
Yeah,
you move forward into your 40s? I know you've still got about 5 years. Do you have plans? Do
crazy.
you,
I
how
literally cannot believe I'm like 4 years, 5 years into being 40. Like at the same time, like thank God for life. Like thank God for life. Thank God for health,
yeah.
ability to enjoy life. But it's still like I literally go to work and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were like 28." I'm like, "No,
That's
I'm
good.
older
That's
than you.
good.
I'm older than a lot of people. I'm no one's mate. You think I am, but I'm not. I'm not." So it's very humbling. But it's interesting. I think one of the things I've coming out to Dubai, I think it has really opened my eyes to the
Okay.
different opportunities that are out here. I had a great life in London, super happy and everything else, but because you meet so many different people from so many walks of life, so many nations, so many backgrounds, people that you would never like, people that I hang out with here, and even like my colleagues, I would never met them at schools in London, like completely different walks of life. It has opened my eyes and my mind in like a different way. And I think even me, like I can still feel part of me just still trying to cling to like creature comforts and what I know. But I
Yeah.
do believe that God is calling me out to keep on stepping out in faith. So to be honest, I don't know what the next kind of 5 years look like in terms of career wise, even life wise. Like
Mm.
I think, after everything that's happened, I had like my life kind of like mapped out and I was like holding on to it like this. And then when everything happened that happened, it was just like, oh, this is like holding water. Like we literally have no control over things. We think we do, but we
Yeah.
actually have no control. So my perspective now is that I'm just super fluid. Like I'm like, Lord, like whatever it is that you want for me, I'm gonna go with it. Like
Yeah.
before I didn't know if I was gonna stay in Dubai for more than 2 years. Now I am. So I'm like, okay, Lord. People are like, how long have you been here for? I'm like, I don't know. If the Lord wants me to come back home, I'll come back home. If He wants me to stay out here, I'll stay out here. Like all I want to be is where He wants me to be because I know that is where I will flourish, you
Love that.
know. I know that he does want to stretch me, and that makes me uncomfortable because obviously we all like being in our strengths. We
Yeah.
like knowing that we know what we can do and
Hmm.
stuff. And I do believe that this these next few years, like I am going to see like God just put me in loads of different places just to really, again, just to show me what He has put inside of me. Um, so I'm just trying to open myself up to that. Like even at work, I'm saying yes to like more opportunities.
Okay.
Like, oh, we want to do this. Okay. We want you to deliver a talk. Can you help deliver a talk here? Okay. Do you want to collab with this? Like some people in Dubai, like, do you want to collab? Okay. Like I'm just trying to say yes, as opposed to having a bit of like a closed mindset. Like, no, I don't do this. I do this, and I live like this, and we do this. And it's like, no, like you're now exposed to a whole different type of people. This is a new way for you to minister, to evangelize, to
Yeah.
show the glory of God. And like I think it's very much of a season of saying yes.
Wow.
Um, and I don't know where that is going to take me, to be honest.
So it's yes to his will, yes to God's will for you over the next. Yeah, it's good. Okay, let's talk about friendships now.
Mm.
How have your friendships evolved over the past decade? And how do you prioritize maintaining those connections, especially now that you're over in Dubai?
Friendships as an adult is so weird. and I like it's so weird. Like,
Oh,
oh my
so
goodness. When I was at home, I had like a few glitches here and there, but generally like really plain sailing and everything here. Coming out to Dubai, like one of my big prayer points before I left and when I got here was finding a tribe.
okay.
And just like uni, it was like this, like, you meet someone in semester one and you're like, oh my gosh, we're so good, we're so like this. And then
Yeah.
by the end of the academic year, you're like, who? I don't know. Like, mm-mm. And low key, that's a little bit what it's been like in terms of in Dubai, in the sense
Okay.
that you meet people, you think like you're really cool, and then you're like, oh, like maybe our values don't maybe align so much. Maybe that was just for a season. I think
Okay.
God's been teaching me a lot about seasons.
Right.
Remember, I was really upset about a certain situation revolving friends, and the Lord brought to me, actually someone else brought the scripture to me and then he used it to speak to me about when God spoke to Samuel and said, why are you grieving? Why are you still grieving over Saul?
Yeah.
Like, take your horn, fill it with oil, for I had the next king to anoint.
Yeah.
And I remember like God just speaking to me, like, why are you still grieving? Like, for me, because I'm a creature of comfort, if something works, I just want to keep on going with it.
Yeah.
And it just became quite evident that that was for that season. It's clearly not really for this season anymore. And it was actually hurting me trying to almost like, because I was doing it on my show, like befriend someone that clearly just didn't want to be befriended in that way anymore. And I was like, oh, okay, like fine. And I kept doing things that was actually just putting myself in harm's way because it wasn't being reciprocated. And it
Right.
was very, again, like they're very clear with what they are sending out there. So you have to respect that.
Yeah.
Being out in Dubai, like, yeah, like, the people that I'm like, I'm an oversharer by nature. It's not hard for me to talk, to share. And so, but really, like in terms of like my close unit, my circle, they're very small, to be honest.
Okay.
And it's kind of remained that way, to be honest. That hasn't really changed. Communication, I think that relationships hasn't really changed. Like my closest friends, like their lives are so different now. Some of them are single, some of them have very demanding roles. Some of them are mothers, wives, whatever. Like everyone is living their life. And I think the thing that I've understood the most
Yeah.
in my adult friendships is grace.
Mm.
Like truth, like Jesus Christ came in truth, truth and grace and truth.
Grace and truth.
Grace and
Grace
truth.
and truth.
Truth and stuff. And I think that's something that's been really important for me,
Okay.
to be graceful and stuff. Also, I've learned as I'm becoming more going through therapy, understanding myself a bit more, it's a case of I understand what I need,
Yeah.
and I'm understanding that maybe not everybody can give me what I need.
Hmm.
So, not demanding things from people that we don't have the capacity to give.
Yeah.
So, I have friends that, because their roles are so demanding,
Hmm.
they won't speak to me much in the week, maybe. So you can keep messaging them and they're going to air you. And it's not because they're airing you, but it's just they don't have the capacity
You don't-
then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that, if I was around or if I was to call them over the weekend or whatever, they're not available. It doesn't mean that even in them not responding that they don't love me. And so it's a case of I'll bring this to you, but I also have to be accommodating as well.
Yeah.
So adulting friendships as an adult is really interesting. And I think another thing as well is that when you start seeing like your friends start walking in the things that you're also praying for, I think it brings up a lot of things internally.
Mm.
And I've had to, yeah, like I will be honest, like so at some points I've been really triggered, like, wow, like literally that, like, like a lot of my friends have children. Like,
Mm.
if the Lord, if it pleases the Lord to bless me with children, then, there's going to be like significant age gaps, or
Between.
this is just not the
Yeah.
season for me. So
Yeah.
then it's a case of, even as I, and even like with health issues, like, like female, like women's health is such a big deal, and especially within your 30s,
Yeah.
these things will start to crop up. And so I've really challenged, like, as I'm going through my own challenges, how can
Yeah.
I still be present for my friends in their winning seasons?
Yeah.
You know, yes, I need to be consoled, I need to be looked for, but you don't want to, I'm always mindful, like I don't want to be that friend that, they bring good news and then they're like, oh yeah, but I got this report, and it's like for every good news that you hear about someone, you have a weeping tale
Yeah.
for to respond to. And that's not to say that obviously you don't share. Of course you do. But I just kept thinking, like, when I'm in this season, do I want to be like begging my friends to like ask me about things, or do I want them just to be around, to be just let me share my joy,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
I want to be the do I want to think, oh, I need to be careful because I know that friend is single, so if I talk about my relationship too much, I don't want to upset her. We need to be considerate, we
Yeah.
need to be mindful, ask other people how they're doing.
Yeah.
But I think about it a lot, like in my friends high seasons,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be that because I'm not in that season either, that I
Sure.
wasn't able to be present,
Yeah.
and at times I've gone to the Lord, I've repented, and I said, like, hey, how can I be present for you? Like, what can I do? Like, how can I want to be present for you? How can I do that?
Yeah.
Especially when I'm far away, you
Yeah.
know? And so I've asked those questions because those things like unspoken jealousy, bitterness, discontentment, and then sometimes I think if we're not careful, we can almost project that, like, oh, you didn't check on me, you've been having a really hard time, and you didn't check on me, so why should I check on you? It's like, oh, and if we're Christian, it's like, well, maybe you didn't check on them because you're a little bit jealous, and so you
Mhm.
didn't actually want to have a conversation with them because, again, it's going to be another romantic story that I don't know who bought her another car, he's flown her out, and you literally can't get a text back, like. So it's literally being honest. I've had to have a lot of honest conversations with myself and
Yeah.
still keep asking, like, my friends in their different seasons, like, how can I be there for you? Like, what do you need? And then some of them are saying nothing. And I'm like, okay, some of my things to do list. Well, still try and do something a bit spontaneous for them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that is
I
that is a
really do love your honesty, to me, because all these things that you've talked about, it's in terms of relationships, they're things that women go through, but they don't want to admit.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's happening every day in
yeah,
relationships with our
mm-hmm,
friends, but we don't
yeah,
really want to talk about them.
yeah,
It reminded me of, I mean, this is years ago when I was pregnant with Tubo, a friend of mine who had been trying to have a child.
mm,
I just couldn't tell her because I knew
yeah,
she was believing God for a child. But anyway, she found out and she was quite upset with me
mm,
because she was like, "We're friends. Why didn't you just tell me you were pregnant?" And I said, "I'm so sorry. I just found it difficult."
yeah.
tell you. But I learned from that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Mm-hmm.
your close friends, tell them what you're going through. Tell them if you can share good news, you might as well share. You can share bad news too.
Exactly.
All of that. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's a learning curve, still learning, still having uncomfortable conversations. One of my friends says, just get used to being uncomfortable. I'm like, but I don't want to be uncomfortable. I just want to have nice conversations all of the time. Um, and so yeah, that is what I am currently processing and going through. But at the same time, it's so beautiful to see like when your friends, like, you've been praying together and then you're like, Jesus, thank you
yeah,
so much.
yeah,
Like, thank you so, so much. Like, just, and obviously, that God can do it for us as well. But it's before that, it's just like, I thank you for them. Like,
mm,
I was able to go to my friend's baby shower when I was in the UK.
yeah.
And we started praying, and I just started crying. So I just got so emotional, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh! Like I can't believe like you're gonna be a mom! Like oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!" And just having like those moments,
Yeah,
like wow, wow, like so. Yeah, yeah, it's nice, but adult relationships are hard.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
weird. They're weird and they're hard. It's weird.
I know. Wow. Okay. So before we go, final thing, just share a life lesson with us. Something you've learned. Now you can share. Yeah. Now that you know better in your 30s. Now than your 30s. Anything.
I would say, do the work and investment in yourself.
Do the work and investment in yourself. Okay.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
explain a little bit more
You
about
know,
that?
yeah, we spend the most time with ourselves the whole time.
Yeah.
I think the work I did in terms of putting myself in communities where I could be accountable, where I
Hmm.
could be mentored, helped me through like my hardest times last year
Great.
because I realized that I was going to help with people who knew me, you know,
Mm,
um, like Uncle Joseph and I've had some very frank conversations. I've told him things. I'm like, if you want me to step down from rock, I understand. And he was like, no, no, you know how he is, like straight face. But then it meant that in those seasons, because he's seen like the growth,
yeah.
that was hard. It's a hard work to lay yourself out. Like, we lay ourselves in front of God, but we don't see God, and it's just between him and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lay yourself out in front of people
Hmm.
and that they can make judgments and thoughts about you, and to say, well, here I am, you're stuck with me, I'm just going to keep coming back on this with this kind of like relationship, if it's therapy, if it's like in your education, in your self-worth, especially personal development. I feel
Mm,
like women overall do this really well. Some men do this really well, some men don't. But I feel like it's a real woman's work. Like it seems to be a woman's work to be like emotionally intelligent, emotionally aware, to
mm,
do that inner work within yourself. Because as if you can see the fruit from that, it encourages you to keep on going.
yeah.
It's doing that investment in yourself that enables you to have better, richer friendships,
Right.
be
Okay.
able to discern better opportunities for yourself, for you
Yeah.
to say, oh, I used to thrive in toxic situations, but because I worked on myself, this toxic situation at work, I'm not going to tolerate it and I'm not even going to encourage it. This toxic situation in my family is not going to continue into my household.
Yeah.
You start to see things differently once you've done the work in yourself, once
Mm,
you've invested in yourself,
yeah.
not so that you're better than anyone, and so I can see that now that, wow, okay. And even now, the knowledge and the things that I've learned, they're so much deeper. So even the connections I desire are deeper. Maybe
Okay.
before I could have like, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe before it was like, I thought it was cool to know like 20, 35 people. Yeah, hi, 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 hi. But then there's no one that you can
Mm,
actually
mm,
call upon.
yeah. Yeah.
But now it's kind of like I'm happy that it's the same 7, 8 people on my call list
Yeah.
on rotation
Hmm.
because the conversations are deeper.
Yeah.
It's richer
Mhm.
because I've been able to do that work within myself. Like I'm doing the hard, my friend Fran says, the hard but worthy work. I'm asking myself those questions. I reported myself to my friend this week and I said, yo, like trigger warning, I'm gonna say some ugly truths about myself. And it was just so good to have a friend that I know I can tell those truths to, that she can see my lows, because
Yep.
then she can celebrate my highs even more because she knows where I'm coming from. They know where I'm coming from. And so it makes the celebration, makes the praise from the unit so much more worthy, because it's not like they just see you from afar and they're like, oh, wow, you're so amazing. And but it's
Mm.
like, yeah, but you don't know anything about me. But to know that people know things about me and they can still see some of this stuff and be like,
Yeah.
team, I'm really proud of you. And I know
Yeah.
those are not empty words.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, thanks. So it's
Uh,
been hard. It's been really hard, and it applies with work, family, relationships. But yeah, doing that investment in yourself, like, do the therapy if you need to do the therapy. Have those
and
difficult
there's nothing
conversations.
wrong with therapy. I hope, I mean, I'm sure well, hopefully Gen Z, millennials, and even the baby boomers,
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with going for therapy.
nothing wrong.
You
Even
still
the
have
retreats.
Jesus.
I went on a retreat this summer,
Oh,
last
that was
month.
Africa's retreat, wasn't it?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
pure hearts.
Yes.
And I was around for it. And, in my head, I thought summertime, I'm going to book a little trip to Europe. And with the budget, I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
And I invested in that.
Mm.
And I was like, no, I'm not too big to go for it. Like, it's like, oh, so are you speaking? No, I'm not speaking. I'm going to be spoken to. I'm going to be ministered to. I'm going to be delivered from and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I humbled myself. Like, no, no, we need the word. We need the prayer.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was just saying, like, 3 weeks on, there are key things that, like Kika said, and it's literally in my prayer language, it's in my prayer vocabulary. But I made that investment in myself. I sacrificed something,
Yeah.
but it doesn't even compare to what I've received.
Fantastic. Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. Great. Thank you so much to me. Honestly, I sincerely appreciate your vulnerability. And yeah, it's amazing when and I guess it's because you're doing a lot of work on yourself, but
Mm.
really do appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable and sharing about everything that's going on
Mm.
with you. And one more thing before we go. How, if people want to buy your book, where can they get your book, your devotional? Where can they get them from?
The devotional is on Amazon. You can get
Amazon.
Kindle. The book is on Amazon as well. Hard
Okay.
copies at the moment. I think I've got the remaining hard copies. I sold some in Dubai and in the UK. I haven't reprinted, but everything's online on Amazon. Um, not AE, but Amazon, UK, com, all the rest of it. And yeah, like my Instagram and stuff, there are links to stuff as well.
Okay. I mean, I'll put your all your details in the
Thank you.
I'll do all of that. But thank you so much. Really do
Thank you for
appreciate
having
you.
me.
I hope we'll have more conversations about other things
Yes,
later
yes,
on.
yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.